Alright, so we're going to try to do this video, see what we get. I have no editor, so this is going to be 100% without editing. So, take it for what it is. Okay, so I watched a video about Mark Kerr and Randy Couture in '92 when they were doing some kind of wrestling thing. And somebody named Kev the Goat was on there. Let's go. Okay. I made a comment. Let's get to my comment. Said I never got to meet Mark Kerr. I never did get to meet him. But I did meet Randy. And I said, all I can say is never meet your idols. Which is a very smart thing to do. And Kev the Goat said, tell us more. So, I guess I can kind of talk a little bit about that. Go to my, well, obviously you're at my YouTube channel or you wouldn't be watching this video. Check out my videos, especially my later videos, back when I was still fighting, and having that sort of stuff up. I do have a handful of my fights on Zenshin Academy and training and things to that nature. But I pulled out my little folder here that has a bunch of my autographs and stuff like that. When I first got started, I was a fanboy like everybody else. I love to meet these guys, hang out with them, get their autographs. That kind of faded after a while, but my book is jacked up. Let me get it fixed here before I jack something up. There we go. Yeah. Alright. After a while, getting to hang out with them and stuff, autographs really weren't that important, but they were still fun to have. So, you get all these. Me and Boss. I got a story about Boss. Don Fry. I got a really good story about Don. But before we get to talking about Randy, talk about these two guys. Yeah, that's me in the middle. Back when I had a little bit of hair. Mark Coleman and Kevin Randleman. Yeah. They were fun to hang out with. Well, look at that. Yeah, they were entertaining. Mark was drunk. Mark was always drunk. I mean, seriously, I'm not saying anything negative about it. I'm just saying Mark was always drunk. Boom. So, Kevin kept trying to take my wife home. Yeah, he would hit on her constantly. Try to get her to go home with him. With me standing right there. Let's see here. What do we got? Oh, this is me when I won my title belt. Whoop, there we go. That's what I look like. That's not too much. I'm fatter now, but there we go. There's another picture of it. Me with my belt. Ooh, there we go. When I won my belt. Some Strike Force stuff. Okay, here we go. I don't remember what. My memory sucks. Alright, so I'm going to try not to mention dates because I've been hit in the head a lot. So there's Randy. He was nice enough to autograph this for me. I don't know what it is. It's some kind of ad thing that promoting supplements and things like that. But anyway, he autographed it for me. Uh, Randy Couture. Fantastic fighter. Completely had a huge thing for him back when he came into the UFC and just dominated and was fantastic. I had a lot of respect for him because he was an older fighter, and I was an older fighter. I didn't have my first fight, my first amateur fight. I was mid-30s. I think I was about 35. Somewhere in my mid-30s when I had my first amateur fight. I started really late, which is why, well, I'm not going to say it's the only reason I never made it to UFC, but which is why I didn't really advance greatly in the world of MMA was because of my age. I was an older guy. I fought basically from 35 into my 40s, and so I was not really in my prime as far as fighters go when I started. So Randy was an older fighter, so I had a lot of respect for that and idolized it in a lot of ways because I saw I knew how difficult it was for an older guy to do this with younger people, and I had great respect for him for doing that, and I always wanted to meet him, always wanted to train with him, and then I did. Maybe he was having a bad day. All right, let's say that. Maybe he was having a bad day, but I was very disappointed in his demeanor and his attitude when I did meet him. He was standoffish, kind of seemed irritated that he was even there. Didn't have any desire to have any real true interaction or connection with the people. And again, maybe he was having a bad day. Maybe he was, but I've heard a lot of people that knew him very well say the very same thing. So I would like to think he was having a bad day, but I think that was just who he was. As a fighter, in the cage, dude, fantastic. But outside the cage, as a person, just a personal opinion. I'm not trying to. I don't want to. I'm not saying crappy, shitty things about him just because. That's just my perspective of him. So that's basically Randy Couture. I was upset because I was disappointed. We'll put it that way. This is me actually in the cage right after they put the belt on me. When I won my title, right there. I was still in the cage when they took that photograph. Dan Severn. All right, Dan. There's Dan. I like Dan. Very friendly guy. Very friendly and helpful. Extremely helpful. So I fought for Cage Rage, not the UK Cage Rage, but the one here in America. I fought for Cage Rage, and we were having an event. I don't know whether I was fighting in that one or not. I'll be honest, I can't remember whether I was fighting in that one or not. But something went wrong with the cage, and the promoter, which was also my head instructor, Chad, called Dan up and said, "Hey, we're having trouble. We're having trouble with this cage. We need a new cage. Can you help us out?" And he showed up the next day with a truck and his cage, and helped set that thing up in bib overhauls. He was wearing bib overhauls that day. A very cool guy. Very cool guy. So that's, yeah, I guess that's the coolest thing I can remember about Dan, was he showed up and brought that cage in and was wearing those bib overhauls all day. Yeah, I mean, yeah, Kevin, cool dude, cool. Had the hots for my wife. Pat Militish. This was the first UFC guy that I ever met. As a matter of fact, let me see here. 1998, 11 April 1998 in Indianapolis, Indiana. I only remember that because I got dates written on the back of these photographs. I would have never been able to remember that. Anyway, Pat and I were both at I think it was kickboxing. I mean, I could be wrong. I think it was kickboxing, to be totally honest. He and I were both at a kickboxing event, and I got to hang out with him a little bit. It was cool. It was cool. Dan the Beast. Me and Dan. I don't have much. I don't know. When was that? That was in '01. And we hung out a bit. We didn't do anything. I mean, kind of chatted a tad bit. He was cool. Dan was cool. Dan was cool. Yeah. Let's see here. You know, what year? What did I say? '01? Yeah.